So I'm thinking about the Al Pacino's legendary speech in Any Given Sunday, where he says, now I can't do it for you. I'm too old. I look around, I see these young faces, and I think, I've made every wrong choice a middle-aged man can make. I pissed away all my money, believe it or not. I've chased off anyone who's ever loved me, and lately I can't even stand the face I see in the mirror. And he says, when you get old in life, things get taken from you. That's part of life. But you only learn that when you start losing stuff. You find out life's this game of inches, so is football. Because in either game, life or football, the margin of error is so small. One half a step too late or too early and you don't quite make it. 1/2 second too slow, too fast, and you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us. They're in every break of the game, every minute, every second. If we heard that in 15 minutes as an opening statement, I would be the reaction of reporters in Lincoln if the head coach did that. Here is...
You've been flagged for clapping, Gary. Sorry.
Clap was an issue. That's one thing you want to avoid. I've learned that. Here's Joe. Hello, Joe.
Hello, Mr. Sharp. How you doing?
Good, Joe. How are you doing on this Monday after what happened on Saturday?
Oh, I don't let it affect me too much. It's a good game. We played good. Losing sucks. There's just no other way to sugarcoat that. Losing sucks. But I think you can lose with some dignity, and we played good. The offensive line looked better. Defense looked okay. And, it's one of these games. It's like I'm a little hung up these last couple days on could have won the game instead of should have won the game. Same thing with playing Minnesota. I think we could win, but Minnesota's beat us,
Yep.
the last couple of years. We probably should have beat them last year or could have beat them last year, but then they come in here depleted and beat us. And I guess just that little play on words might take a little of the pressure off of some of the kids down there in Lincoln, because we have found ways to lose games in the last few minutes, well before Scott Frost got here. I think it was Mike Riley's first game. He calls a timeout towards the end of the game, and BYU, I think it was,
yep,
ends up
for the Hail Mary.
Connecting on a Hail Mary.
Mm-hmm.
And you go back to Ndamukong Suh against Texas. Ndamukong outplays the whole doggone team, and they put 1 second on. We lose that game. Have we had a few here and there that we've won at the end? Sure. But, you go back to Florida State, where we played Florida State and they rush out onto the field and they douse Bobby Bowden with the Gatorade, put the second, couple seconds back on. We missed that field goal. We've had our fair share of tough breaks.
But they do. But in some of those, Joe, they did come out the back end of it. That was the thing with T.O. is he couldn't win the big one, and then what changed?
Yeah.
He went and got a big one at quarterback, who would not be denied, and that I think Tommy Frazier didn't live for the first 55 minutes of a game. He lived, and he didn't get an opportunity in most cases to have the last 5 minutes of games matter. But if they did, he was going to make a play. He was a guy you could rely on, and he changed how you felt about the team because Tommy was in charge. We've never gotten to that point. We've never gotten to that point with Adrian in the last 5 minutes. Adrian's in charge. Nebraska's going to be okay.
Yeah, you touched on that just a few, maybe the last segment, and I agree with you. And I've said this before. I think Adrian's a great leader. I think he's an absolute fantastic young man. He handles winning and losing very well, but I don't know if he sort of commands we're not going to lose, I'll ruffle whoever's feathers I have to. And, maybe that's just a vibe that came with the Mike Riley sort of, everybody gets ice cream after the game vibe. But I agree with you. Adrian doesn't, in my opinion, take command of the game when it matters, and give everybody else confidence around him that, hey, we're going to win this stuff.
Yeah,
he's a great player. He makes a lot of plays. The last point I kind of want to make, and I don't think it's not trying to be an excuse, but Scott Frost is still a pretty young head coach. He's starting to show some signs of improvement, and, you know, I like the direction they're going. I like Frost as not only a coach but a leader. I think he's a great fit, obviously, for Lincoln because he cares about not only the football program, but he cares about the University of Nebraska, and I think that speaks volumes. But Jim Harbaugh, head coach at Stanford for a little while, head coach at San Francisco for a little bit, head coach at he's got a little bit more experience. Even PJ Fleck, head coach for a few more years than Scott Frost. And, you know, I hope everybody does, and they just kind of pump the brakes. I see the improvements. I mean, Nebraska's a pretty good team. Scott Frost says it. But we do seem to find a way to lose these games or not win these games, however you want to put it. And it does. It sucks. But,
well, Joe, and I don't think none of us are getting into a debate about, well, is there progress or not? They're a better team, and there's some areas like penalties where they have taken care of this year. You can see individuals that have made strides. I mean, we all kind of were like, Damian Daniels. All right, give me 15 to 20. Damian Daniels on run defense is turning into a beast, and he's probably made some money. Cam Taylor-Britt played his best game of the season on Saturday night. I mean, there's individual guys that you've seen move along, and you've seen position groups that have been able to move along. The thing that I maybe this comes with more experience, the more games you coach and the more situations you're in, but there's still the finding points of clock management, game personnel management that still have to be taken care of. Because this league, there's such a small margin for error. The teams that are really good, yeah, they might have an abundance of talent, but they take care of the clock management, the game rhythm management, like end of halves on terms of how you're playing the clock and the score and the awareness of time and score. Those are things that still need to be figured out, and they've got to be figured out sooner than later before you get that talent that can overcome some of those things that you might not be strong in. But there's areas where Nebraska has built on, and there's some of their weak areas where they're still weak, but they're a little bit better. They're a good football team, Joe, that's stuck right now and making that next step up. And maybe we see that when the Minnesotas and the Purdues and the Wisconsins are on the schedule. You know, maybe we see the winning by multiple scores. But they need to go out and do it. And then this weekend would be one of those weekends to do it as only a 3-point favorite.
Nope, I agree. Thanks, Dave.
Hey, Joe, thanks for the call. Let's get to another Joe. Joe 2. Hello, Joe.
Hi, Gary. How you doing?
Good, Joe.
You know, I just have a different take on this thing.
Okay.
Adrian Martinez is the only Nebraska quarterback to ever run the up-tempo. When you got to remember, when Frost came here, we were going to run the up-tempo Oregon offense. When he came here, he was 17 years old, and he was mature beyond his years. And I think that Frost has overplayed that. To me, a lot of this is mental. Plus, you have to throw in his injury and everything. But I'd say about midway through 2018, his first year, I said to myself, you know, I think as a dual threat quarterback, that Adrian Martinez was the most gifted quarterback that they have ever had. And I am excluding guys like Tommy Frazier. I do not think that Tommy Frazier could sit back and read this and make the kind of throws that Adrian has had to do. There was a day when Frank Solich put the team on Eric Crouch's back, and he was able to carry that team. When we start to compare Frost in this offense and Martinez in it, running it, against other, previous teams, we're not comparing apples with apples. And I just think that so much of this has been the mental aspect of Martinez, what he has had to do with. And finally, when he gets to this year, I think he's able to free himself from, he thinks it's his last year. It's kind of the, it's now or never or everything, until they start losing these big ones, and now it's right back, dog chasing his tail. He's right back into this pressure situation, And look at how much they rely on this guy. Still, he doesn't even have a fraction of the talent that a Crouch or a Frazier had. So I don't see those comparisons about, well, how were you terming it, about the crutch factor or whatever?
Yeah. Oh, Tommy was money if the game was on the line late.
But you don't think having Lawrence Phillips in the backfield had something to do with that?
I think, you know what? It's nice to have a lot of talent around you, Joe. But you talk to anybody that played with him. When it was go time and Nebraska needed to score or they needed to hold on to a victory, 15 took over. That was his.
That. But let me ask you this.
Yeah.
How good do you think that this team would be if you had 3 seniors and 2 juniors as an offensive line that were really good?
That's hard to say.
Do you think that we would have all these losses if you were able to run the ball with a really good offensive line? We don't have a really good offensive line.
Are you still playing close games, Joe, or are you beating Michigan State and Oklahoma and Michigan by a couple of scores? I mean, what are we doing here?
Well, going into the Michigan game, the whole thing that I didn't like was the matchup between their defensive line and our offensive line. I said, between that and our really bad kicking game, that could be the difference in the game. So I still say you're dealing with a team that is very young, and they're still a notch down in talent when it comes to what is in the offensive line, which is just such a critical part of the game.
It is. Why, Joe? Why do
and as far as Frost goes, I hate to see coaches change, and I at this point I'm just kind of I'm unsure. I'm unsure of what where he's going to plateau out at.
You mean what Scott's going to plateau out at?
Yeah. How good can he be?
Are you curious to see what Scott is like with a different quarterback? Because there are times where Adrian is a blessing and a curse to Scott, I believe, because of Adrian's strengths and
to have that
deficit.
Change. In this case, they're not going to be able to rely on him, so that's going to force them to get some of these other guys on the field and whatever. That's another question I have for you. Is how complex is this offense that you start to get these Callahan comparisons about the 50-pound playbook and 400 plays and all of that stuff? That's a reflection on the coaching too.
Well, and they pared that down. All right, it was very difficult. They pared it down. Probably need to pare it down more for some guys. But here's the thing. Because of Adrian's ability, is they rely so much on him, Joe, to be the offense. And if he's not the offense, they don't really have a strong plan B. That's not good. That's not a knock on Adrian. It's just there's a blessing and a curse of Scott being a head coach and a play caller with Adrian at quarterback that I think affects both of them.
I agree.
Joe, I appreciate the phone call and the discussion as always.
Okay, thank you.
Have a good day. Here is Alex. Alex, you're the last one before we go to Lincoln. Hello.
Hello. A couple quick points. I think right away, Adrian actually played pretty well. And I don't want to knock on the kid because the dude has, for all of his faults, he's done a lot of good stuff for this team.
Absolutely
I think
true.
really the problem. I think the real problem is the coaching. And case in point is the very first set of points we should have had. You go for it on fourth and within your red zone, and it gives you then poor field position and all that stuff. But look at what happened in the game. Those 3 points would have sent us into overtime, and there's no saying we would have won in overtime, but that's what would have happened. And you can't really deny that. I mean, obviously, the kicker would have had to do his job too, which has been very suspect lately. But let's face it, let's not beat around the bush here. I mean, Scott Frost made a bad decision there, I feel.
Did you think that at the time, Alex? And I know, that's a little tough question. Okay, go ahead.
I wasn't able to watch it live. It was after everything had already happened, so I was able to rewatch the game. But my immediate thought was, why didn't we take the point? Because I know you want to get the leg up, you want to set the tone and get the points first, put them down, and all that stuff. But you got to think strategically more in that point. Whereas if you get the 3 points and not a shooing, of course, but if you get those 3 points at the end of the game, you're tied. And then you go into overtime and then, you let the chips fall there instead of these last-minute hiccups. You know, like this. It's just, you know, they say this is the repeat of the same thing, the same story. Well, it just is, and that's the only way to change that is by making better choices. I feel, and that goes for everybody on the team. I would say they can't be even just the coaches; it has to be players too. They got to make better choices. You know, getting Luke Reimer his ridiculous penalty, I think that's also a referee thing, and we didn't have any favors from the refs. Obviously, everybody knows that.
Alex, thanks for the phone call. So let's rewind the tape. Let's go back to the opening possession for Nebraska. After Nebraska gets the ball, and it's the screen pass right away to Ramir that goes for 43. By the way, there should be no more discussion for the rest of the year on who RB1 is, and possibly there shouldn't be a discussion who RB1 is going into next spring. You had a guy who, you know, had 41 of his 65 rushing yards were after contact. He had 172 yards from scrimmage on a night that it wasn't easy to run. Here's what I think happened. And at the time, I thought go for the points. You're in a game, the place is jacked up. You're having success. You go 43 on the screen. Now, you went, Ramir goes for 4, and then you get back-to-back, Ramir gets stuffed. Remember, they went for it on 4th down and 6, and what happened? Manning got the pass for 24. We'll continue this thought, but let's go to Lincoln. The head coach is talking.
Scott, is there an update on Oscar?
Yeah, Teddy had a knee injury. He's going to have surgery next week, and we won't have him back until spring ball.
With him playing in 5, I mean, is there no chance, or with the limited snaps in some of those games, do you guys have a chance to maybe look at getting a red shirt on him?
Yeah, we'll see. More worried about him and his health and everything right now, and we'll work on eligibility issues later on.
How do you think Bryce did coming into that when you watched it back, and sort of just what you saw from him as he dealt with, being demoted briefly and how it impacted it?
Yeah, I said going into that week, I had a long talk with the team about just doing what's best for the team, continue to get better. We've had several guys that have been taken out for a little while and then got their chance again and just need to make the most of it. So Bryce played a lot of football. I thought he came in and did well. Obviously, we had a pretty good second half offensively, and we need him to play well Saturday.
Where has that group improved in your mind in the last couple weeks?
We just got to keep getting better at protection and keep getting movement in the run game. And it's been baby steps, and we're getting better at that. But when we can establish run game, everything works, and we got a quarterback that can make throws and people can get open if we have time. So that's not a big secret. That's offensive lines anywhere.
How tough is the timing of that injury for Teddy, given the progress he had been making and making his second start?
Yeah, I feel bad for him. You feel terrible for anybody when they get hurt. And we're playing a team that has a couple key guys that have gotten hurt, and it's just tough. These kids put so much time and effort and energy into this, and Teddy's been just improving by leaps and bounds since he got here. And he was getting to, reap the benefit of that, and it's a tough setback, but guys come back from these things, and he'll be fine.
Scott, Austin Allen said he felt pretty good at halftime, even though you guys hadn't scored in the first half. I know you talked a little bit about this after the game, but how much did what you did in the first half, even though it didn't lead to points, sort of unlock what you did in the second half of the game?
Yeah, really, realistically, we could have scored a couple times in the first half, and that would have put us in a better situation. But, doing some of the things we did in the first half set up some things for the second half for sure. I think Coach Lubick and the rest of the offensive staff did a good job making a couple tweaks and pointing us in a couple other directions at halftime. And we certainly had them in a lot of good plays in the second half and did enough to win, needed to do a little more.
As part of, you mentioned Ryan Held catching the review, has his role in the box, has it changed at all, the way that you've been able to communicate adjustments or make adjustments at halftime?
Of all the coaches on my staff, the one that understands option football probably the best is Coach Held. So it's been a benefit for us to have him up there to watch the specifics of how people are playing us on that, to make sure we're getting the right scheme that way. Coach Lubick's pretty dialed into calling a game with me too, so Held's able to watch the whole field and see some other things, and he did a great job catching that, and that would have been another unfortunate touchdown that probably shouldn't have counted, and I'm glad he saw it.
Hey, speaking of running backs, I told you 6 months ago Amir Johnson would be your running back and receiver in the game. Would that have surprised you, and how far has he come in that 6 months?
Yeah, I think it would have surprised me. He was probably 5th on the depth chart to start fall camp. But been saying all along and waiting for somebody to step up and kind of take it. And he's taking advantage of chances. I think he's running hard, making plays in the pass game. We certainly need other guys to keep improving and give him some break. But really happy for Amir and how far he's come. And when you're patient with some people, sometimes they continue to improve and end up being good players.
When was the light bulb moment for him in your eyes? Like, when did you say, hey, this guy, he's coming up?
It's been gradual, but it really started this fall camp. I used to get frustrated with him for not running full speed. He's such a fast kid, and everything wasn't 100% all the time. There's only one way to play this game, and that's with everything you got. And sometimes when you come in young, you dip your toe in the water a little bit instead of just letting it rip. And he's really learned how to play as hard as he can.
There's a lot that goes into maximizing a team's potential. How close are you on this team, do you think?
We still got a lot of ways we can get better, Sip. We can continue to get better up front. We can block downfield better. There's been a couple little details right when we need them the most that have hurt us. Defense has played so well, but one more stop here and there. We had one miscommunication on a coverage on one of their touchdowns. So those things happen during a game. When your margin of error is so slim, they can really hurt you. When it isn't, you don't even notice those things. We're playing a lot of good teams, and the margin for error in those games is small, and got to avoid those things. But the guys are playing well. We can still get a lot better.
When you made that patience that you mentioned with Ramir, how much can that be a value for other guys to see that? And I think you mentioned Marcus Castro-Walker last week too when talking about Yant. Is that part of Marcus's role too, helping guys see some of those opportunities?
Yeah. Apparently Marcus's role is to get on social media for standing behind me at games. He does a great job. I was always dehydrated at games before because I never even thought to drink anything, and he's always handed me a water bottle. It's been nice. Marcus he's great. He's great with our kids. Our kids trust him. He's able to help them with a lot of things on and off the field. And you need guys, when kids come from a long way away to go to school somewhere, you need not guys, you need people in the kids' corner, and many of them, multiples of them, to help them navigate football and life. And Marcus is a big piece of that for us.
You made the changes along the offensive line. You said you want to see them play with more attitude, more nasty. Have you seen Bryce's attitude respond to that?
Well, he's got a chance to show us this week. He's from Minnesota. He's getting a chance to play against them. I don't think he played his best game against them last year. So this is a big opportunity for him, and we got a lot of faith in him. So he's got to have a good week of practice and counting on him and the rest of the guys to play well.
I know it's a different year, but the last 2 years things haven't gone well against Minnesota. When you look back at those games, like what jumped out of those two losses to the Gophers?
I think we were 4-2 when we went up there 2 years ago, and we played really uninspired football. I had the feeling as head coach we had some of our kids that didn't really want to be there. It was a little cold. It was spitting rain. We didn't play tough that night. I give them credit. They had a really, really good team 2 years ago. Good team last year. We haven't played our best against them either. So they've had 2 weeks to prepare. I'm sure they're going to play their best game they've played this year. I hope we do too.
They like to sit on the ball. How do you have to? I know you got to be kind of patient as a defense and kind of pick your spots, but how do you get the ball away from them and kind of turn the game into a flow that favors you?
You got to get ahead, I think, Sam. We got to start fast. And in a lot of these games that we play in this league, if we're behind, they can kind of play the game they want to and run time off the clock, and that changes if you're not ahead. So looking forward to trying to start fast, and I'm sure they are too. But we got to take advantage of whatever reps we get on offense because sometimes there's more and sometimes there's less.
You've had a couple stretches here where you've played a lot of weeks in a row. Now you're going into 8th. I mean, do you handle things with the guys any differently this week, or talk to them about sort of, earning the bye, or however that works?
Yeah, we took the pads off them today. We usually have some part of practice on Monday, good on good, and there's a lot of thumping on Monday. We didn't do that today. I thought I just needed to give the guys a little break after a really physical game on Saturday, and they responded really well, really clean practice, and the guys were dialed in today. So they're excited to play, and I told them if anybody wants to play in the NFL, you play 4 preseason games and 16 regular season games and sometimes playoffs, and you get 1 week off, and that's after a camp, and that is a grind. So 8 weeks is a lot for college football, but our guys got plenty of gas in them.
We were searching for that card answer. Maybe it's still proven vote for Nuri, but so far, I mean, after you watched him against Michigan and with the Northwestern performance, where do you feel about that spot now?
Feel good about how Nuri's played. I think that whole process would have happened faster if he was consistent, and that's what I want to continue to see from him, is consistency. He's probably exceeded my expectations during games. If we'd have seen that in practice consistently, it probably would have happened faster. So he's doing a good job. He can still get a lot better, but I just want it to be I want to be able to count on him to do it all the time.
You mentioned a game a couple of years ago where maybe some of the guys didn't want to be there or whatever. How much has the personality of the team changed since that? In what ways?
I think we're just more of a grown-up team. We got more kids that love each other and love the team and love football.
I've heard a little about your meetings with Trev on Sundays. What can you tell us about what you guys talk about during those meetings and how you think they're going?
Which meeting?
The meetings with Trev on Sundays after games.
Oh, Trev's been great. Sometimes I go up there, sometimes he comes down. Yeah, he felt like all of us Saturday. I think he felt like, here we go, this is the one. We're going to get this one. This is a big win. Top 10 team. Gosh, and the kids did so many things right, and heartbreaking for him, but he felt the same way the coaching staff did. I really appreciated him yesterday. He went around to all the assistant coaches too, and told them how proud he was of what the team did on Saturday. So it's been nice to have him show support like that.
Scott, how has your team avoided having this stretch of games taking an emotional toll on them? It seems like they're still mentally strong despite playing 8 straight weeks now and also a few heartbreaking losses in there.
Yeah, I'm not really worried about this game from an energy and enthusiasm standpoint. When you're running sprints and you have to do 20 of them, it's not the 20th one that gets you. It's the 16th, 17th, 18th one. The guys know that we got a little break coming up after this game. We've been trying to take care of them. So Minnesota's got a good team. They're well coached. It's on the road. It's going to be tough. But I don't think our guys will fail to prepare and be ready for it.
Metrics are metrics, right? But ESPN's got one metric where you guys are 21st in the country, another one where you're 24th. The problem is you played 3 top 10 teams. How good is the Big Ten right now? Just in the 4 years you've been in it and just in general, based on the leagues that you've coached in?
I think the Big Ten's really good. I've said this a lot. Top to bottom, it's good. Anybody can beat you any week. On top of that, we play might as well just schedule a scrimmage with Penn State on a Wednesday because we're going to play everybody that's good in the league every year. We knew that the schedule was going to be a challenge coming into the year, and the kids were excited about it. And, man, we've battled with these teams that are all good teams, and I think we're a good team. We got to win our share.
Have you gotten things stabilized, you think, at the punting spot with Krista the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, that spot's like a couple other spots. We got kids with talent. They got to do their job when they're called upon to do it. In the last 2 weeks, Will's done that. So the team's counting on guys to do their job, and I hope all of them continue to do it when they're asked to.
Just to clarify, you say Trev came up to the offices yesterday?
I talked to Trev quite a bit, but, yeah, we kind of get together every Sunday and talk about the day before. I'm usually not in the right frame of mind on a Saturday night to to do that. But he's been awesome. He was in the locker room after the game on Saturday. I know he went around to some of the players and gave them encouragement, and came down and talked to everybody yesterday. It was great.
How tough for night kind of turn around on Sunday? You know, when you get off the field late and come right back on Sunday, is it a little bit tougher the last 3 weeks having to turn around?
Yeah, it's probably tougher on coaches than players. I remember being a player and I would just sleep in, skip church, which I shouldn't have done, but sometimes you skip church. As a coach, you got to get up early and get to game planning again. So I told the players after practice today that the big thing this week is we got to recover. It's been a grind and we got to recover. So sleeping and eating right and hydrating and everything and getting physically right for this game. I know they'll be emotionally and mentally right.
Hey, Scott, I wanted to ask you, with kick and punt return men, how much do you weigh whether to use a guy that maybe is a starting receiver or starting back, as far as trying to keep them healthy for what they're doing and eliminate risk?
Normally I would weigh it quite a bit. Right now I want someone back there that's going to catch it and give us a chance to return it. And we're fielding it right now. We need to make a play in the return game at some point, and that would really help us. So normally you make sure everybody's healthy. Right now it's all hands on deck.
Is that, on the other hand, was that as well as the coverage units played all year in your mind?
Yeah, they were really good on return units, and I thought our kick coverage team did an exceptional job. But I've been saying that for a while. It hasn't, special teams' problem hasn't been our coverage units. It's kind of just been the guys doing the specialty jobs here and there, and those guys are doing better. So hit reset, and it's not a problem.
Anything else for Coach?
That's the head coach, post-Michigan, ahead of Minnesota, which Nebraska needs to treat like the Super Bowl. Minnesota will do that coming off their bye week. But Nebraska want to be playing in December. They want to take me to the Guaranteed Rate Bowl in downtown Phoenix after Christmas. That is a game that Nebraska must win. And if you're following along how the season is going, and you feel that Nebraska is a good team, which I do, Minnesota is a befuddling team, Nebraska finds a way to win the game. But Vegas will say it's going to be a close game. How does that make you feel? But it also, the most important thing is, I think the physical, I'm glad Scott addressed this, or whoever asked the question. It's going to be the 8th game in 8 weeks. And the last 4, take out Northwestern, have been physical games, and they've worn on you. Mentally, I don't have a concern about this team. I think they'll hang in there. Now, if there are a couple of more games where Nebraska can't find a way to win at the end of the game, then you start to worry about guys just cracking. But I worry about guys physically as they fight through to get to the bye after the game against Minnesota. Probably the biggest news, there was no, by the way, no question asked about Xavier Betts. Teddy Prohaska is out until spring. Major knee injury. It's going to take surgery and some rehab for Teddy, and that is really, really unfortunate because he had settled in as your starting tackle and your future tackle and was starting to get very comfortable and went down. Fortunately, Benhart came in and was serviceable, but now Benhart's going to be asked to play an entire game. And maybe going back home up to the Twin Cities will ignite him after last year was not one of his better performances at all. We still got a lot of stuff to touch on from Saturday, from the NFL, from college football. Major League Baseball, no score. They are in the top of the 3rd in Game 3 of the NLDS between Atlanta and Milwaukee. The series has shifted to Atlanta. Series tied at a game apiece. They're in the top of the 3rd. There is no score. Mike Schaefer's coming up here in a little bit. He is in Lincoln. He's walking the hallways. We'll get the vibe on what he sees after 7 games. Nebraska now 3-4. We're back with more of the Gary Sharp Show after this.